All right, ready to dive into the world of remote work.
Absolutely. We've got a ton of great insights from those experts at Harvard Business Review.
Articles, tips, real-world stories. It looks like we're about to turn everyone into a remote work superstar.
It's incredible to see how much the way we work has changed. Working remotely definitely gives you more flexibility.
Yeah, for sure.
But it also comes with its own set of challenges, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
But the good news is these experts, they've figured out how to make it work. They've got advice on everything from your mindset to setting up your home office.
So you're saying it's not just about like rolling out of bed and hopping onto Zoom?
Definitely not. There's a lot more to it. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. It's like a cheat sheet to help you navigate all the ins and outs.
Okay, love a good cheat sheet. So where do we start?
Well, I think the foundation is your home office setup. You've probably heard this before, but having the right tech can make or break your remote work experience. It's worth investing in, I think.
That makes sense. What kind of tech are we talking about here?
Okay, so first off, reliable Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's essential.
Right, because no one wants to freeze in the middle of an important presentation.
Ah, that's the worst.
And then a good noise-canceling headset. I mean, this can be a lifesaver, especially if you're like me and need to pace around when you're brainstorming.
Oh, I'm a pacer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't sit still. Anything else?
Well, expert Alex Samuel, he also reminds us about social media.
Interesting, because I thought we were supposed to avoid social media, right, to be more productive.
It might seem counterintuitive, but actually it can really help with that feeling of isolation that a lot of remote workers experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So think of it as your virtual water cooler.
Ah, like a way to stay connected.
Exactly. Keep those connections going, those casual chats with colleagues.
I do miss those. It's easy to feel disconnected when you're working from home. Okay, so tech and connection. Got it. What's next?
Let's talk about focus. I mean, it's one thing to block out the distractions in a busy office, but at home, it can feel like distractions are everywhere.
Oh, tell me about it. The doorbell, the dog, the laundry. It never ends. So how do we actually create that, like, distraction-free zone at home?
Well, productivity expert Elizabeth Grace Saunders, she calls it building your focus fortress. And her point is, you can't control everything, but you can control your attention. It's all about setting boundaries, even with those well-intentioned friends and family who might not quite understand the whole working from home thing.
Boundaries, I like it. It's like my own little work kingdom.
Exactly. But how do we actually put those boundaries in place?
Yeah, do I need like a moat and a drawbridge for my office?
Well, Saunders, she recommends structuring your day a bit differently than you would in a traditional office setting.
Okay, interesting.
So, like designating specific blocks of time as meeting-free zones.
Oh, eating free zones. I need that.
Right. You use those for that deep focused work.
Yeah, I do feel like my day sometimes gets taken over by back-to-back meetings. I need to reclaim some of that focused work time. Okay, any other tips from Saunders?
Yeah, here's another gem. During those focus blocks, try to choose just one or two key tasks to tackle. It's about prioritizing, going deep rather than trying to juggle everything at once.
Okay, so quality over quantity. I can get behind that. And I'm totally guilty of multitasking, which really means doing a bunch of things poorly at the same time. So focus, check. What else?
And this one's a biggie. Stop checking your email constantly. It's a huge productivity killer. Maybe try shutting it down completely during your focus blocks.
Oh, that's radical.
I know, it's tough. Or maybe just limit yourself to checking it once or twice a day. I think you'll be amazed at how much more you get done.
I need to try that, but I feel so tethered to my inbox.
It is a hard habit to break, for sure.
Okay, so what about those of us who don't have a dedicated home office? Any tips for, carving out a workspace when space is at a premium?
You don't need a fancy setup. A little creativity goes a long way.
Oh, good, because I'm running low on space.
Even a designated corner of the dining table can work.
Okay, I like that.
The important thing is to have a space that you associate with work, even if it's temporary. It helps to mentally shift into work mode.
Yeah, like creating a mental boundary.
Exactly. It's all about those boundaries.
Yeah.
Speaking of boundaries, let's talk about the superheroes of the remote work world. Working parents. I mean, trying to juggle kids and deadlines. It's like a constant circus act.
I can only imagine. I can barely keep my plants alive, let alone manage tiny humans.
So true. And expert Daisy Dowling, she's been there, done that. She really emphasizes clear communication with your kids.
Okay, so even with the little ones.
Even with the little ones.
How? They don't even understand complete sentences.
Well, she says even a visual schedule can work wonders. something that everyone can understand.
Oh, I love that, like a stoplight for interrupting. I might use that with my housemates. Visual cues, brilliant. Okay, so communication is key. What else?
Dowling also encourages parents to set realistic expectations. Some days are going to be smoother than others, and that's okay.
Ah, permission to not be perfect. I like that.
Exactly. No one's perfect. It's about finding a rhythm that works for you and your family, and being kind to yourself in the process.
I love that. Finding a rhythm. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding a sustainable way to make it all work.
Exactly. And now that we've covered the home front, let's move on to the world of virtual teamwork. Because building relationships and dealing with conflict, well, it can be a whole different ballgame when you're remote.
Oh, I've had my share of virtual miscommunications.
Haven't we all? So how do we go about building this amazing remote team?
Yeah, spill the secrets.
But it all starts with the boss, right? Building trust with a virtual boss, it can be a bit tricky, but it's not impossible.
Okay, good to know.
And expert Keith Ferrazzi, he says it's really all about proactive communication and setting really clear expectations from the very beginning.
So no more hiding behind emails and just hoping for the best.
If you want to thrive, no. Ferrazzi recommends regular check-ins with your boss, not just about tasks. It's about talking about your well-being, any challenges you're facing, just making sure you're both on the same page.
I see. So it's like building a bridge over the distance.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding problems. It's about actually, tackling them head on.
Okay, so be proactive.
Ferrazzi is a big believer in addressing potential conflicts early on, before they have a chance to simmer and potentially blow up.
Oh, I've been there. It's amazing how quickly a small misunderstanding can turn into a full-blown email war when you're not face-to-face. So how do we handle those tricky conversations remotely?
Conflict resolution expert Amy Gallo, she has a somewhat surprising suggestion. Pick up the phone.
Really? I thought we were all about email and Slack these days.
Well, she says relying solely on email for those sensitive conversations is like trying to defuse a bomb with oven mitts.
Oh, that's a good analogy. Okay, so face-to-face, even if it's virtual, is key when things get a little heated. What kind of situations would you say warrant a phone call?
Gallo shared this story about Leah and Arena, and their communication breakdown almost derailed a big project.
Oh, no.
And it all started with a misinterpreted email tone, leading to assumptions and resentment. But a quick phone call, it helped them clear the air and get back on track.
Wow, I can totally see how that could happen. Sometimes a simple phone call can save so much grief and prevent things from spiraling out of control.
Absolutely. So, speaking of preventing things from spiraling, let's talk about standing out in a remote setting. It's easy to feel like you're fading into the background when you're not physically present.
Yeah, it's like the out of sight, out of mind phenomenon. So how do we make sure contributions are being seen and appreciated when we're working remotely?
Elizabeth Gray Saunders, she's back with some tactical advice on this. And it really comes down to clear communication, being proactive about solving problems, and, this is key, highlighting your successes, but, without sounding like you're bragging.
Okay, so how do we strike that balance? Because no one likes a show-off, but we also don't want to be overlooked, right?
Right, exactly. Saunders recommends framing your accomplishments in terms of the value they bring to the team or the organization.
I see. So instead of just saying, I finished the report, I might say something like, the report I completed has some really key insights that'll help us make a more informed decision about this thing.
Perfect. You got it. It's not about tooting your own horn. It's about showcasing the impact of your work, how it contributes to the bigger picture.
I like that. Shift the focus. This is good stuff. I'm already feeling more confident about navigating the remote work world.
Me too. But we're not done yet.
Yeah.
There's another crucial part of thriving remotely that we need to address. Avoiding burnout.
Burnout. But wait, we're working from home in our pajamas. How can that be stressful?
I know, right? Seems counterintuitive. But the truth is, it's easy for those lines between work and life to get blurry when your office is also your living room.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
We end up feeling like we're always on, which, can lead to exhaustion and burnout.
Okay, I get it. So how do we prevent that?
Well, experts Sean Aker and Michelle Gielan, they have some interesting insights. They actually debunk this myth that resilience is about pushing yourself to the limit.
Wait, so working ourselves to the bone is not the key to success?
Not according to them. They actually say it's the opposite. Building in time for real recovery is essential to avoid burnout. It's not about endurance, it's about recharging.
I like the sound of that. So what does real recovery look like?
Well, they emphasize prioritizing activities that help you detach from work and restore your energy, like taking a walk, maybe engaging in a hobby you love, or simply not checking work emails after hours.
Oh, that last one is a tough one for me. I'm so used to being connected all the time.
It's a hard habit to break.
But I can see how disconnecting could really be a game changer for my mental well-being. Okay, so we need to set boundaries, even with technology. But even with breaks, all that screen time can really take a toll. Any tips on minimizing screen fatigue?
You know, it's funny. Elizabeth Grace Saunders, she's full of wisdom. She has some great advice on this. She suggests taking strategic breaks, like stepping away from your computer every hour or so. Just stretch, look out the window, give your eyes a rest.
It's true. I often get so caught up in my work that I forget to take breaks.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
And she also recommends limiting those unnecessary video calls. Not every meeting needs to be on camera. Sometimes a phone call or even an old-fashioned email will do the job.
And let's not forget the mute button. It's a lifesaver for those times when you need a visual break, but you still need to be present in the meeting.
Absolutely. The mute button is a great tool. Even small changes like that can make a big difference in your well-being.
This is all great advice. I'm feeling much more equipped to tackle this remote work world. But I have a feeling we're just getting started, right?
We are. There's still so much more to uncover, like those dreaded virtual meetings.
Oh, yes. Let's dive into that next.
Virtual meetings. They can be a real challenge when it comes to remote work.
Oh, tell me about it. I've sat through so many meetings that could have just been an email.
So how do we make those meetings more productive? Something we don't dread.
Yeah, how do we make them, dare I say, enjoyable?
Well, Paul Axtell, he's an expert on effective meetings.
Okay.
He believes that it all comes down to having clear objectives, knowing what you want to get out of the meeting before you even start.
Yeah, it sounds obvious, but I'm definitely guilty of just scheduling meetings without a clear purpose.
It happens.
Arr.
So clear objectives are key. But what else can we do to make those meetings more, less painful?
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Well, Axtell also emphasizes intentional participation. He says leaders should try to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable contributing, not just the same few people.
Yeah, it's easy for people to fade into the background on those virtual calls, so how do we make sure everyone has a voice?
Well, he suggests using different techniques, like polls or breakout rooms, or even just asking direct questions to specific individuals.
Oh, I like that. Get everyone involved.
Exactly. It helps make people feel like active participants, not just passive listeners.
It's about building that sense of community even when we're apart.
Exactly. And speaking of being on camera, any tips on how to, look good and feel confident during those meetings?
Oh, man, I always feel so awkward on camera. Like a deer in headlights.
Well, you're not alone. And communication expert Joel Schwartzberg actually has some great insights on what he calls commanding the camera.
Commanding the camera. Okay, I like that. Tell me more.
Well, it starts with the basics. Framing. Make sure your camera's at eye level. You're not too close, not too far away.
Okay, so framing is important.
It is. You want to look professional, but still approachable. And then it's about projecting confidence.
Okay, easier said than done. What about all my nervous fidgeting?
Schwartzberg says you just have to pretend you're confident, speak clearly, maintain eye contact with the camera, that's your audience, and use hand gestures.
Hand gestures. See, that's where I get tripped up. I feel like I look too animated.
I think natural hand gestures can actually help you look more engaging and relatable.
Okay, I'll have to try that. Maybe I'll channel my inner Italian. Lots of hand talking.
Mm-hmm.
Any other tips on looking good on camera?
Oh, and don't forget about the chat window. Schwartzberg suggests using it strategically. You can share links, offer support to other speakers, or ask clarifying questions.
I mainly just use the chat to say a quick hello or great point, but I like those ideas. It can really add another layer to the conversation.
It can. And now let's talk about a specific kind of meeting that could be tricky in a virtual setting. Brainstorming.
Ugh, yes, brainstorming. It can feel like herding cats, especially virtually.
Right. People talking over each other, getting sidetracked.
Exactly. So how do we make those virtual brainstorming sessions more productive?
Experts Liana Creamer and Stephen Rolderberg, they actually suggest two kind of surprising techniques. One is embracing silence.
Silence in a brainstorming session.
I know, it sounds strange. But they recommend having periods of silent brainstorming where participants write down their ideas individually in a shared document.
Oh, I see. So everyone gets a chance to think on their own without being influenced by others.
Exactly. And then, once everyone's had a chance to get their ideas down, they recommend using breakout rooms for smaller discussions.
Breakout rooms, so it's like mini brainstorming sessions. I love that.
It helps break things down and allows people to really dig into specific ideas.
This is great stuff. I'm feeling way more optimistic about virtual meetings now. But what about the people leading those meetings, the managers? Managing a remote team has its own unique challenges, right?
It does. It's not just about running effective meetings. It's about building a whole culture of trust and motivation.
Yeah, it's easy for remote workers to feel disconnected. So how do we keep them engaged and productive, even when we're not in the same physical space?
Well, Lindsay McGregor and Neil Doshi, who are experts on human motivation, they talk about the importance of total motivation, cultivating a sense of play, purpose, and potential.
Play, purpose, and potential. Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
Well, they actually found that even in challenging times, work can give people a sense of meaning.
It's true. When we feel like our work has a purpose, it's not just a job anymore.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose is even more important in a remote setting. So how do we as managers actually put this into practice? How do we foster those feelings of play, purpose, and potential?
Yeah, how do we translate that into action?
Well, they suggest things like framing tasks as challenges, encouraging people to experiment, and celebrating wins, no matter how small.
So it's about building that culture of engagement and empowerment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we also need to be really mindful of how we communicate. Because as more of our communication happens online, it's easier for things to get lost in translation.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely had those moments where a harmless email was taken completely the wrong way. So how do we avoid those communication mishaps and make sure our message is coming across clearly?
Erica Dawan and Tomas Chamorro Premusic, they are experts on digital communication, and they highlight the importance of having a clear and predictable communication style.
So no more cryptic emails or passive-aggressive Slack messages.
Right. Be direct, be concise, and watch your tone. And they also say it's important to be aware of what they call virtual cues.
Virtual cues, what are those?
Things like response times or the communication platform you choose. So for example, if you send an urgent email and you don't hear back within a reasonable amount of time, maybe it's a good idea to follow up with a call or a text. And think about the platform you're using. A video call might be better for a sensitive conversation, while email might be fine for a routine update.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job. But what about those really tough conversations, the ones that are hard enough to have in person? How do we handle those with a remote team?
Joseph Grenny, he's another expert on communication, and he has some great advice for raising sensitive issues remotely. He says the key is to create a safe space for open and honest dialogue.
Okay, a safe space, but how do we actually do that in a virtual setting?
Well, he suggests starting by asking for permission before you dive into a difficult topic. Something simple like, is this a good time to talk about something that's been on my mind?
Oh, I like that. It shows that you respect their time and their headspace.
Exactly. And once you have their permission, clearly state your intentions and stick to the facts. Avoid making assumptions or judgments and really just focus on the specific behavior or issue you want to address.
So be direct, but respectful.
Exactly. And even though you're not face-to-face, choose your words carefully, be mindful of your tone, and try to be as kind and empathetic as possible.
It's all about remembering that we're dealing with human beings, even in a virtual setting.
Absolutely. And now I think it's time to switch gears a bit and talk about something a little more fun. Building camaraderie in a remote team.
Okay, I like fun. Because let's be real, it's easy to feel isolated when you're working from home all the time. So how do we create that team spirit when everyone's scattered all over the place?
Kudi Shalev, he actually leads a fully remote company, and he has some really creative ideas about this. He believes in finding ways to connect with colleagues on a personal level, not just a professional one.
So it's not all work and no play.
Exactly. He encourages things like virtual coffee breaks, online book clubs, even virtual game nights.
Virtual game nights. That sounds fun. What kind of games are we talking about?
He suggests games that require teamwork and collaboration, because they can help build trust and even reveal how people handle pressure and solve problems together.
Oh, I love that. It's team building disguised as fun.
Exactly. It's all about finding ways to connect, laugh, and let loose, even when you're not physically in the same room. Because at the end of the day, we all crave that connection no matter where we're working.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm feeling way more confident about navigating the remote work world. But we've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?
We have. There's still so much to learn.
Like time management and those pesky distractions.
We'll tackle all of that next time.
Yes. All right, let's recap a bit. We've covered creating the perfect home office, building a strong remote team, and we even tackled those virtual meetings.
You did.
I feel so much more prepared now, but it sounds like thriving in this remote work world, it's like an ongoing process.
It is. You're absolutely right. It's
Yeah.
about constantly adapting and adjusting as we go along. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, is time management.
Oh, yeah, big time. It's so easy for the lines between work and personal life to get blurry when your home is your office.
Exactly. And that can be tough.
My to-do list just keeps getting longer, and I constantly find myself procrastinating.
We've all been there.
Any advice on how to, manage my time better and get things done?
Well, Elizabeth Gray Saunders, our productivity expert, she has some time-saving strategies that I think can really help.
Okay, I'm ready for Saunders to save the day.
One of her top recommendations is to start each day with a clear plan. Take a few minutes in the morning to prioritize your tasks and schedule out your day.
Block out time for focused work, meetings, breaks, all of that.
Exactly.
It's like being the architect of your own day, right?
Exactly. It's about taking control and making those conscious decisions about how you spend your time. And Saunders also stresses the importance of saying no.
That's a hard one. I hate saying no.
I know, it can be tough, but it's so important,
Mm-hmm.
especially to those requests that don't really align with your priorities or that, could just derail your whole schedule.
Yeah, I get it. But any advice on how to, politely decline those requests without feeling like a total jerk?
Well, she recommends having a few go-to phrases handy. Something like, I'm really swamped with other projects right now, but maybe we could revisit this later.
Okay, I like that.
Or, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I don't think I'm the right person for this particular task. Maybe insert name would be a better fit.
Oh, those are good. Definitely stealing those. But what about those, random distractions that pop up throughout the day? The laundry that suddenly needs folding, or the fridge that starts calling my name.
Oh yes, the siren call of household chores. It's so real.
Yeah.
But Saunders has a suggestion for that too. She says you should schedule specific times for those tasks.
What? Actually put it in my calendar. Do laundry at 2 p.m.
Exactly. It might sound a bit rigid, but it can help create a system that works for you.
Okay, I'm willing to try it.
And if all else fails, noise-canceling headphones, my friend.
My trusty sidekicks. Sometimes you just need to block out the world and get stuff done. This is all fantastic advice. I'm feeling much more in control already. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what the future holds for remote work.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the future of work is still unfolding, but it's clear that remote work is here to stay. And as more and more companies embrace it, we're going to see a shift in how we view work, collaboration, even career growth.
It's not just about working from home, it's about reimagining the whole work experience.
Exactly. We might see a surge in freelance and contract work as companies become more comfortable hiring people from all over the world. And as digital skills become even more in demand, we could see entirely new career paths emerge that we haven't even thought of yet.
Wow, that's exciting. It feels like we're on the verge of a massive change in the work world.
We are. And while there will always be new challenges to figure out, there's also so much potential for more innovation, flexibility, and I think most importantly, a more inclusive and equitable workplace for everyone.
I love that. A more inclusive and equitable workplace. Remote work really has the power to level the playing field.
It does. And that's definitely worth getting excited about.
Absolutely. Well, what an incredible journey this has been. We've explored so much about thriving in the remote work world, from setting up our home offices to mastering those virtual meetings.
It's been a fantastic deep dive, and I hope our listeners are leaving feeling inspired and ready to make this new way of working their own.
Me too. So to all of you amazing remote workers out there, here's a final thought. As remote work keeps evolving, what role do you want to play in shaping its future? What kind of work environment do you envision for yourself and for others? The possibilities are truly endless, so keep dreaming, keep experimenting, and never stop learning.